Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of Wei Qi.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, we'll be exploring Chapter 76 of the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine. This text has been super influential for practitioners for centuries and centuries.
It really has.
And I know you know this already, but Wei Qi is often translated as defensive Qi. It is a vital energy that flows throughout the body, acting as a guardian.
But like a protector.
Yes, exactly. Like a protector. But we're going to go beyond the basics today. Today's journey is going to take us through the intricate pathways of Wei Qi, its connection to the cosmos, and even how these ancient healers actually use this knowledge for treatment.
Amazing.
So are you ready to unlock some ancient secrets?
I am. I think what's so intriguing about this chapter is that it reveals how Wei Qi isn't just some abstract concept.
Yeah.
It's deeply rooted in these tangible pathways and rhythms within the body.
Right.
Even the text gives us specific numbers. Like it highlights this ancient Chinese practice of meticulously observing and quantifying these subtle energetic phenomena.
Yeah. It's amazing. The chapter is structured as a dialogue between the Yellow Emperor and this legendary physician, Chibo. And right away, they get into specifics. They explain how Wei Qi completes 50 cycles through the body in a single day and night, 25 in the yang regions during the day, and 25 in the yin regions at night. 50 cycles. That seems like
That's a lot.
it's a pretty busy schedule for our energy bodyguard.
It is. It is. And it's not just about the quantity of these cycles, it's about the specific pathways that Wei Qi follows. This is where the concept of yin and yang comes in.
Okay.
You know, they represent opposing yet complementary forces in Chinese philosophy, and Wei Qi embodies this beautifully. During the day, as Wei Qi is circulating through the yang regions, think like the back, the outer limbs, it's focused on protecting us from external threats. It's like our frontline defense.
Okay, so that's Wei Qi in its warrior mode.
Yeah.
What about at night when it shifts to the yin regions?
This is where things get really, really fascinating.
Okay.
At night, Wei Qi moves through the yin regions, think inner legs, the chest, and focuses on nourishing our internal organs. It's like switching gears from defense to restoration. And what's fascinating here is that the text doesn't just say that Wei Qi nourishes the organs. It goes a step further, specifying it nourishes the Zhang organs, the solid organs like the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys.
So even as we sleep, this Wei Qi is hard at work, making sure everything is running smoothly on the inside.
Right. And what's really cool is that the text links the movement of Wei Qi to the meridian system,
Yeah.
the same pathways used in acupuncture.
Okay.
Now, while we can't physically see Wei Qi, its influence is deeply connected to these tangible pathways.
Right.
So by understanding the flow of Wei Qi, practitioners could actually influence its movement through techniques like acupuncture
Wow.
to address imbalances and promote healing.
That's remarkable. Using a system that's been around for millennia to understand and potentially influence the body's energy flow, it really begs the question, what can modern medicine learn from these ancient practices? Are there insights that we've overlooked?
That's an important question to consider. But let's dive a bit deeper into this concept of Wei Qi and its journey through the body.
Okay.
The text provides a very specific itinerary for Wei Qi, and it all starts at a rather unexpected location.
The eyes.
The eyes. Why the eyes?
Well, if you think about it, the eyes are one of the body's most vulnerable openings, constantly exposed to the external world. They're a gateway for light and information. So it makes sense that Wei Qi, in its role as a guardian, would begin its daily journey there, like a sentinel taking its post at dawn.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So where does the Wei Qi travel from there?
So the text describes this fascinating journey. From the eyes, Wei Qi travels down the back, following the bladder meridian all the way to the little toe.
Wow.
Then it branches out, flowing through the yang meridians of the legs, the small intestine, gallbladder, and triple burner meridians.
Wait, hold on. Back up for a sec. We're talking about meridians now. You're not going to make me memorize all those meridian names, are you?
No anatomy quizzes here, don't worry.
What's important is understanding that Wei Qi moves in this very precise and deliberate manner, following these specific channels. It eventually reaches the Yangquan point on the sole of the foot.
Oh, yeah.
And get this, Yangquan translates to bubbling spring.
Bubbling spring. That's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
And what happens at this bubbling spring? Does the Wei Qi take a break?
Not quite. It's actually a turning point.
Okay.
From the Yangquan point, Wei Qi begins its journey back up the inner legs, moving through the yin meridians and eventually returning to the eyes to complete a full circuit.
So it's this continuous loop flowing down the back, out to the limbs, through the feet, and back up again. That's quite a journey. what's the significance of this constant cycle? What's the purpose beyond defense and nourishment?
That's where things get truly mind-blowing.
Okay.
The text goes on to explain that this internal cycle of Wakey isn't happening in isolation.
Uh-huh.
It's actually mirroring the movements of the heavens. Kibo states that for every 2 celestial mansions traversed by the heavens, Wakey completes 3 3/4 cycles through the body.
Wait, so they were tracking Wakey and correlating its movement to celestial movements? That seems incredibly complex for a system developed so long ago. We're talking about some kind of ancient Chinese astrology here?
It's not astrology in the way we might think of it today, with horoscopes and zodiac signs.
Right.
But it does reveal a profound understanding of this interconnectedness between the human body and the cosmos.
Oh, yeah.
This concept is known as the spiritual pivot, the idea that the body acts as a microcosm of the universe,
Wow.
and that each cycle of Wakey is a reflection of these larger cosmic movements.
Okay, this is definitely moving beyond just, a simple energy flow explanation. We're talking about the human body as a mirror of the universe.
Exactly.
I'm already feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Let's take a pause here. And then in part 2, we can unpack this cosmic connection and explore how ancient practitioners might have observed and utilized it.
Sounds like a plan. It's always good to give these complex ideas some time to settle in.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome back. It's really remarkable how the ancient Chinese saw this intricate link between the human body and the vastness of the cosmos.
It really is. It's definitely a shift in perspective.
Sure.
How we tend to view things now.
Totally.
But let's get back to Wakey and its journey. We left off with Wakey making its way back up the inner legs after reaching that bubbling spring, the Yunquan point, on the soles of the feet.
Right. As Wakey continues upward, it enters the yin regions, specifically the foot shine, which is the kidney meridian.
Okay.
From there, it circulates through the yin channels, nourishing the zhang organs, the solid organs that are responsible for all those vital functions.
So even while we're sleeping, Wakey is working diligently, tending to our internal landscape, making sure those vital organs are well nourished, functioning properly. It really does seem to work tirelessly around the clock.
It does, and here's where we see the brilliance of that ancient Chinese observation. They noticed that the Wakey cycle wasn't exactly 50 circuits in a day and night.
Oh, interesting.
There's a slight excess, a fraction left over.
Interesting. So what's the significance of that extra fraction of a cycle? Does it have any practical implications?
It absolutely does. That seemingly minor detail speaks volumes about the individualized approach that forms the cornerstone of Chinese medicine. You see, it acknowledges that not everyone's energy flows in the exact same way.
So while there's this overarching framework of Wakey completing 50 cycles,
Right.
there's also room for individual variations, which makes sense. We all have different constitutions, sleep patterns, different energy levels.
Exactly. That extra fraction of a cycle, it represents those unique nuances of each individual's energy flow.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to health and well-being.
Right. This is where I start to see the bridge between this ancient text and our modern holistic health practices, right? There's this emphasis on understanding the individual, not just the symptoms.
I completely agree. And this understanding of that individual variation becomes even more crucial when we consider how ancient practitioners actually use their knowledge of Wakey for treatment.
Right. We talked about how Wakey is linked to the meridian system used in acupuncture. But if this energy is constantly cycling, how do they know when to treat someone? It's not like they had a Fitbit for Wakey.
Well, the Yellow Emperor had that very same question.
Okay.
In the text, he actually asks Shibo how a practitioner can possibly time their needling to align with Wakey if it has no fixed schedule.
I love how these ancient texts address, the practical questions that would naturally come up.
Yeah.
So what's Chibo's answer?
He explains that it all comes down to understanding 2 key factors: seasonal variations and the significance of dawn.
Okay, seasonal variations make sense. The length of days and nights change throughout the year, which would naturally affect the Wakey cycle, but what's so special about dawn?
Bo actually brings in another legendary physician, Bo Gao, to explain this. Bo Gao emphasizes that dawn is the reference point, the starting point, for calculating Wakey's position. No matter what time of year it is, dawn marks the beginning of the yang cycle, the moment when Wakey emerges in the eyes and begins its journey. It's like hitting the reset button each morning.
So even though the overall length of the day changes with the season's dawn, always marks the beginning of that 12-hour yang cycle.
Right.
And by understanding the length of that particular day, they could then kind of pinpoint where Wei-Qi would be at any given time.
Precisely. And to do this, they use this incredibly detailed system of 100K.
Right, the 100 Qi, you mentioned those earlier. Remind me, what exactly is a Qi?
Think of it as an ancient Chinese unit of time,
Okay.
a more precise way to divide the day than just hours.
Okay.
They divided each day into 100 Qi to really precisely track the movement of Wei Qi through the body.
Wow, they really took this timekeeping to a whole other level. But I'm still curious. How did this translate into actual treatment strategies? How did they use their understanding of Wei-Qi's location and movement to actually promote healing?
That's where Bogao's famous rule comes into play.
Okay.
He said, to needle excess conditions, do so when Qi arrives. To needle deficiency conditions, do so when Qi departs.
Okay, so if someone has an excess condition, let's say a headache because there's too much energy stuck in their head,
Right.
you would time the needling to coincide with Wei-Qi arriving at the head, almost like using the needle to nudge that excess energy back into circulation.
Exactly. And conversely, if someone has a deficiency, let's say cold hands, because not enough Wakey is reaching their extremities, you would needle those points when Wakey is departing to draw more energy to that area.
So it's not just about sticking needles in certain points. It's about working with the natural flow of Wei-Qi, using the needles to gently guide and harmonize the body's energy. I can see why this principle would have been so crucial for these ancient practitioners.
Absolutely.
What's fascinating to me is that they achieved all this without all the technology and imaging that we have today.
It really does highlight the power of observation and a deep understanding of the body's interconnected systems. They were meticulous in their observations, tracking those subtle shifts in energy and using that knowledge to really personalize treatments.
You know, it's interesting because we've been talking about all these intricate details, the specific pathways, the 100 Qi, the timing of treatments. But isn't there a risk of getting lost in the weeds?
That's a great point, and I think it's important to remember that while these details are fascinating,
Yeah.
they're ultimately tools to help us understand the bigger picture, that interconnectedness of the human body, the rhythms of nature, and the vastness of the cosmos.
Right. The details are important, but they shouldn't overshadow these fundamental principles at play. So let's bring this back to that spiritual pivot concept, the idea that the human body mirrors the cosmos. How did ancient practitioners actually observe and experience this connection? And how did it influence their understanding of health and healing? I think that's where we need to go next.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's delve into that cosmic connection in part 3. It's where the real magic of Wei-Qi starts to unfold.
All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Wei-Qi. And I have to say, my mind is already buzzing with all these details, the pathways, the timing, the 100 Qi.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that the real magic unfolds when we explore that cosmic connection, so let's dive into that. What did the ancient Chinese mean when they talked about this spiritual pivot?
Well, it all comes down to this idea that the human body isn't just this standalone entity, right?
Yeah.
It's a microcosm of the universe, reflecting those same patterns and rhythms that govern the cosmos. And Wei-Qi acts as this bridge, this vital link between our internal world and the vastness of the heavens.
Okay, I'm starting to grasp the concept. But how did these ancient practitioners actually observe and experience this connection? Did they use astrology or astronomy in their practice?
It wasn't astrology in the way we might think of it today with horoscopes and zodiac signs. It was more about recognizing this deep harmony between the movements of Wei-Qi and these celestial phenomena. For instance, Qi Bo states that heaven and earth follow the same patterns. The celestial movements mirror human Wei-Qi. This suggests this direct correspondence between the flow of Wei-Qi in our bodies and the movements of the stars and planets.
So they were observing these celestial movements and seeing them reflected in the human body. What kind of observations were they making?
Well, they were very attuned to the cycles of the sun and the moon, the stars. They tracked the seasons, the solstices, the equinoxes.
Okay.
And they noticed that these celestial cycles had this direct impact on human health and well-being. For example, they observed how the changing seasons influence energy levels, sleep patterns, even the prevalence of certain illnesses.
That's fascinating. It's like they were seeing this entire universe reflected in the human body.
Yeah.
But this raises a question for me. If they believed that there was this inherent connection between Wei-Qi and the cosmos, how did that influence their approach to healing?
Well, if the human body is a microcosm of the universe and everything is interconnected, then it follows that any imbalances in the body could be reflections of imbalances in the cosmos. and vice versa.
Ah, okay.
So by understanding and working with these cosmic rhythms, they believed they could restore harmony to the body.
So it wasn't just about treating, physical symptoms. It was about restoring a deeper energetic balance between the individual and the universe.
Exactly. It's this holistic approach that takes into account not just the physical body, but also the energetic and spiritual dimensions of our being.
This is starting to make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
We've talked about how Wiki follows a specific pathway through the body and how its cycle is influenced by, the time of day, the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're seeing that its movement is also connected to these larger cosmic rhythms. It's like these multiple layers of time are all interwoven and influencing one another.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And it highlights that incredible depth and complexity of this ancient system, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about memorizing a set of rules or techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about developing this deep awareness of these interconnected rhythms and learning to actually work with them to promote health and well-being.
It makes you wonder, what we've lost in our modern approach to health. We tend to focus on isolating and treating specific symptoms without always considering the bigger picture, the individual's lifestyle, their environment, their connection to the natural world.
That's a really important point, and I think there's this growing recognition, even in Western medicine, that we need to move beyond this compartmentalized view of the body.
Right.
We need to consider the whole person and their place within the larger web of life.
Well, this entire deep dive has certainly expanded my view of what it means to be healthy. We've gone from the intricacies of Wakey's pathways to the vastness of the cosmos.
It's been a journey.
It really has.
Cool.
As we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway that you hope our listeners will remember about Wakey?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Reiki isn't just some abstract concept, It's this vital force that flows through each of us, connecting us to the rhythms of the natural world and the vastness of the universe. And by becoming aware of this energy, understanding its movements, we can potentially tap into this deeper level of well-being.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think it's a perfect note to end on. So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to pay attention to your own energy. Notice how it ebbs and flows throughout the day. Become aware of the rhythms of your body and how they connect to the rhythms of the world around you. You might be surprised by what you discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Wakey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.